Hello there and welcome back to another review. So carrying on, like I said, I will get through all the movies from this box set. So I thought following on from Seven Grandmasters, we'll have a look at 36 Deadly Styles here today. Now this film, 36 Deadly Styles, is a weird one. It's a very weird film. When I say weird, I mean it's probably... I could probably argue, or you could argue, it's probably one of the least polished films from this box set. Not that it doesn't have its moments, but there is quite a lot to be said about this movie. The thing is with Joseph Kyo, like I mentioned, as his films are often made very quickly, and there's little in the way of actual planning, some would argue that this is a director that just goes on instinct. And if you look at many of his movies, a lot of the time we, the audience, are meant to sort of fill in the blanks. There's a lot of stuff that, like I've mentioned, Seven Grandmasters, that is just thrown at you. It does seem sometimes plot elements are just completely and utterly throwaway, and sometimes he just chucks things in just for the good measure. And I think a lot of the time there are holes, or not necessarily plot holes, but I think we as an audience are meant to be sort of filling in the blanks of why did that happen, how did we get here, and these things like that. Not to say his films are confusing, but sometimes it isn't clear always how one thing led to another, or who the good guys are, or who the bad guys are, or them kind of things. And I think the 36 Deadly Styles has been divided. I think it's divided the sort of hardcore Joseph Kyo fans. It's not bad, but at the same time it's far from the director's great work as well. So it's made in 1979, I believe, and with this movie we have Hwang Jang-lee. I mean, he was a big draw for Joseph Kyo. Obviously Snake and Eagle Shadow and Drunken Master, had been successful the years before, so the new thing was sort of kung fu comedy, and this film is an attempt to try and sort of copy and emulate that sort of formula, that kind of style that Yuen Woo-ping and Jackie Chan sort of done. Someone could argue as well it was not always Joseph Kyo's, kung fu comedy, you could argue, was not always Joseph Kyo's forte, but I think, like if you look at sort of World of Drunken Master, which is actually not a bad movie, and that's in here as well, and I think that is also one of my favourites from the box set. I mean, he can pull it off, and I think I'll be getting into the ins and outs of this movie today, and there, because as mentioned, there is quite a bit to say about this movie. There are moments in this film, the 36 Deadly Styles, that doesn't make too much sense, or seem to come out of nowhere, or a twist where there didn't need to be one. Those are all things we come to associate with Joseph Kyo. In the 36 Deadly Styles, the misfires seem to be more obvious, I would say, than normal. I think the misfires and the missteps that do happen, because like every director, filmmaker has things that sometimes work, sometimes don't work, but I think here they're a bit more obvious than what they usually are. The most thing you will take from this movie, though, the one thing that will stand out for you if you watch this movie, are the wigs. The wigs will be something you'll be thinking about, or laughing about, I should say, for quite a while. I mean, we have Hwang Jang-lee's long flowing grey hair almost falling off during flights, and the less said about Bolo Yeung's, what he's got on his head, the better. I'm not even going to get in. Well, we'll see how we go. I think the main problem with this movie is that it's very uneven throughout this film, but we're getting into a sort of its goods and bad points today. So the film credits open with a trippy, weird Technicolor assault. Film starts with Wei Yi and his uncle Wang getting beaten up. No explanation, no idea why they're getting up. The film just starts like this. Even the opening shot is one of them sort of falling into the frame, and it's a very bizarre, odd way to start the movie, if a very urgent way. So we have no context as to why they're getting beaten up and chased. Then we cut to Mark Long talking to Hwang Jang-lee's character about someone who has escaped to Tibet and what he wants him found, basically. Hwang catches up with a guy who says he wasn't behind the killings, and he kills him. It's worth noting that in a lot of the fights with Hwang Jang-lee, it's meant to be Hwang Jang-lee. And it clearly isn't him, or it's mainly shots from the back. Obviously Hwang was he was there, he got top billing to give the film some credit. So I imagine probably only turned up when needed. I'm sure he wasn't there throughout the majority of the shoot, but I think there's a lot of scenes where you can pretty much tell it's meant to be Hwang Jang-lee, and I don't think it is. I could be wrong, but he is in the movie, but there's a lot of shots where it's clearly not Hwang Jang-lee, and I imagine, like I say, only turned up when needed, and probably wasn't a bad day at the office for him as well. It's worth noting as well that Mark Long's story is like his character has absolutely nothing to do with the main plot, but we'll get into that in a little bit. We then cut to this monk called Senior Hwang, who is like skinning a snake, and he has sort of a pain and is in agony, and see glimpses of him being kicked and like drinking medicine out of this vessel, as to which he like uses the snakes for, because he's got medicine, he's got he's suffering somehow. We also learn he likes to slap his student monks around quite a lot. So Wai Yi and his uncle come knocking at the door, the guys that were getting beaten up and chased at the beginning of the movie. As they are beaten. Bearing in mind it is now night, right, and the film opened in daytime, so they've obviously been running from these guys all afternoon, right? These guys have been chasing them all afternoon. That's one way to spend your day. The baddies that are after them turn up like a second later and just carry on beating them as well. So the senior monk knows Uncle Wang and fends off the attackers in quite a cool little fight scene with some nifty little bow staff work here and there thrown in for good measure. So because of the beating, Uncle Wang dies, which he actually didn't see coming. One of the main goons pretends he is beaten and dead so he can sort of sneak away. Chief Adbert is really annoyed the senior Hwang has killed because of the monk he shouldn't have. Then we see what is meant to be Hwang Jang-lee fighting another guy. I mean, it very well could be him, but the wig is absolutely massive, and like I say, largely shot from the back, so who knows. And then YG comes to, and this is when the film goes into the absurd, right? This is when the film goes, what the hell is going on? Because that happens quite a lot, as I mentioned, in Joseph Kyo movies, but here we get that what the hell, what the hell is going on. For starters, as soon as he comes to, bearing in mind the monks have sort of saved him, the first thing he does is call their kung fu lousy. That's where as soon as he comes to, the first thing he does, as soon as he wakes up, insults their kung fu. Not only that, he's not even grieving or upset about his uncle in any way. So we have a playful scene of him trying to stick these like two monks together, so they have to sort of like eat upside down. I mean, it's all play for giggles. It's the trouble is when you do see these kind of scenes, these kind of comedy scenes, you're always comparing it to Snake and Eagle Shadow or Drunken Master or something Samo would do. So when you do see these kind of comedy scenes, sometimes they can be a bit tedious. Sometimes you think, okay, just get on with the film, just get on with what you're trying to say. It's the whole film here with 36 Deadly Stars seems so all over the place, and like it was shot very much in a rush. And I think that's why, like I say, with the Hwang Jang-lee character, a lot of the time it is from the back, because I imagine he might have only been available for a set amount of days. And like I say, the wigs and everything, it's just this film does seem very sort of haphazard in its approach. There's just loads going on here. Then YG has to go and get some milk. See, at this point watching this movie, I had so many questions, like who were these people beating him up at the start? What did his uncle die for? What happened to the bad guy that got away? So after getting the milk, he gets into a play fight with the owner as he has no money. Have Fan Mei-Sheng here as well as the owner of who many of you remember sort of from Magnificent Butcher, sort of the trainer in that, and he was also in Rikki-Oh that I reviewed not that long ago. So we learn that he is injured too, just like this guy. He has the injuries. He's injured too, just like the monk was, the one who was sort of making the snake medicine for himself. He's got the same injuries as well. So they're sort of still reeling from something that's happened before. So I think it was Hwang Jang-lee who gave the injuries. So we catch up with the bad guy who got away, who is writing a letter saying that YG got away. So now the Wig Brigade begins, right? Now the Wig Brigade begins, and you meet his first brother who has like a nice golden blonde piece of carpet on his head. So YG goes to leave one night and says goodbye to the girl he brought the milk from, and she says some guys come looking for you. And on hearing this, he goes back to the temple. Okay, make your mind up. Are you leaving or staying? I love as well where he hasn't like, bearing in mind these monks saved him, right? At the very start of the movie when him and his sort of uncle were being chased, he hasn't once thanked them. He hasn't once said, thanks for looking after me. God, I owe you so much. Nothing. As I mentioned, as soon as he wakes up, or what happened earlier in the movie, he just insults their kung fu. You don't see him grieving or upset about his uncle that died or anything like that. He just has not fainted them once. So we see Hwang Jang-lee's double again, beating another guy up. Have that classical, typical montage of Wei Yi helping around the temple, cooking, fetching wood, lighting fires, that kind of thing, to prove he's sort of fitting in and this kind of thing. So after all of this, right, bearing in mind he was just going to leave, he's gone back, he's just sort of helped around the temple, right, for a bit, and then he leaves again, right? So now at this point in the movie, I was thinking, what on earth has this got to do with 36 deadly styles, right? That is the title of the movie. What are these 36 deadly styles? Are they even going to get mentioned? Where is the film title in the movie? Who has the 36 deadly styles? Is it a training manual? Is it an ancient technique? Whatever it is, as they've not been mentioned once. And you know what? When they do get mentioned, the 36 deadly styles, they have nothing whatsoever to do with the main plot. So have that, the 36 deadly styles, they're just mentioned, but they have nothing to do with the main plot and what is happening throughout the bulk of the movie. So in the market, Waji recognises the guy, and this is where we see Bolo sporting what I can only call it like a gigantic red mop on his head. This is the only thing I can describe what Bolo Yeung is wearing. I mean, this thing is a sight to behold, and you've never seen anything quite like it. I mean, I know kung fu movies are renowned for sort of bad wigs and eyebrows and things like that, but this film really does take the cake. You've never seen anything like this. So Waji gets filled with rage and goes to attack the baddies who are sporting like red coats. He gets beaten as they don't recognise him, as he gets his face in like a plate of food whilst trying to use like a guy's staff. So after this, he follows them to a brothel and learn they're going to kill the senior monk. Like, why? I thought it was YG you wanted dead, and now they're going to kill like the senior monk now. So they've sort of changed their plans a little bit, and they're going to kill sort of the senior monk. YG finds him and tells him what's happening. So the redcoats turn up, and the master girl, the girl from the market, wants to help fight them. Then it turns into a chase with the blonde one chasing YG and the girl. Again, we still have no idea why. Hwang kills two of them and is just left with Bolo, and then Hwang Jang-lee turns up. Yes, this is when you can tell this is actually Hwang Jang-lee. As I mentioned, I think a lot of the scenes here, I'm pretty damn sure, when it is Hwang Jang-lee in some of the earlier fight scenes in the movie, it's not actually him there, because as I say, he's got this great big wig, shot from the back. I mean, if you've got Hwang Jang-lee there, you'd want to make the most of him, but I'm pretty sure he might have only been available, like I mentioned, for 3 or 4 days. And, Joseph Kyo tried to get as much footage as he could of him. So it sends the monk flying. Hwang sends the monk flying and kills him. I mean, we could probably be more invested a lot earlier if we knew why on earth these guys wanted him dead so much. I think as an audience, like somebody watching this movie, I think you'd be a lot more invested if you knew why he wanted him dead. So, who has Hwang been killing all this time? What has happened to Mark Long's character? The film just asks so many questions, and unfortunately, as it goes on, you think it doesn't actually answer any of them. It answers, it asks the questions, but you don't always get an answer. As I mentioned earlier, Joseph Kyo sometimes just let you as the audience fill in the blanks. So Fan Mei-Sheng helps YG escape. So finally at this point we get some backstory. Turns out him and the monk knew his dad, who we find out killed one of the Redcoats, right? He killed one of the Redcoats brothers. I mean, why? We have no idea. We have no idea why he killed one of them or anything like that, but he killed one of theirs, and that's it. So his dad killed one of these redcoats, and that's it, and they were friends with his dad. So the whole plot is one of their buddies killed one of theirs, and they want payback. That is the movie. So 36 Deadly Styles, neither here nor there. So Fan Mei-Sheng and his daughter sort of close up shop and go and live in the country now, and he starts teaching like the 8 Immortals Fist, or at least the parts he doesn't know. The training in this movie basically consists of punching a hole through this bamboo fence. That is basically the extent of the training we get here. So eventually we finally catch up with Mark Long's character, who learns that the guy he's after is in the temple, and that man just happens to be Jack Long. As I mentioned, loved Jack Long, is the sort of the lead in 7 Grandmasters. Now, this is where I was hoping and wishing that Joseph Kyo was going to do something clever and witty and like linking these two plot threads together, because you've got Mark Long, you've got the whole Hwang Lee and the red coat thing going on, and you're like, right, is this gonna how these two things that are running parallel, how are they going to be connected? But do you know what? That doesn't happen. that this whole arc, the movie feels more like an afterthought and a way to build up the runtime more than anything else. So Mark wants Jack to hand over his copy of the 36 Deadly Styles. Finally, we get the title of the we have something about the title of the movie here. So he wants him to hand over this copy of the 36 Deadly Styles, to which we learn that Jack Long burnt it. Right? So Jack Long burnt his copy of the 36 Deadly Styles. So it's sort of like, right, 36 Deadly Styles, always burnt the copy. So Hwang and Bolo find Fan Mei-Sheng's country retreat, and this movie, with, as I say, with that Bolo wig, you just can't take it seriously. I say Hwang Jang-Lee's wig is bad. Bolo Yeung's wig is just an abomination. It really, why did they ever think this was okay to put Bolo in this wig? So whilst this is happening, Jack Long is fighting Mark Long. I mean, make no denying it, you get some very talented people in this movie. You get Hwang Jang-Lee, Bolo, Jack Long, Fan Mei-Sheng. It's just a shame they're all largely wasted in this movie. And the film does seem a bit of a misfire, a lot of missteps. Jack Long beats Mark Long. Turns out he never knew the 36 Deadly Styles and the book is burnt. So for the love of God, why on earth has that as the title of the movie? Right, he burnt it. He didn't even know the 36 Deadly Styles, and that's the title of the frigging movie. It's like has nothing to do with it whatsoever. A plot in the film that doesn't matter concerning the style that no one knows. That's what we get with what's going on here. So Bolo gets beaten. There is major dialogue before any fight. There's no dialogue before any fight either. Like sometimes they just start fighting. There's never some dialogue just fill in the pieces, to fill in a few gaps about the plot and just keeping you up to speed as an audience with what is actually happening and why these people are chasing them. We don't get anything of that. Like they catch up with them, and more often than not, they'll just start fighting. So it would have helped if they did that, just to add some tiny bit of context. It's like, right, you good, me bad, let's fight. That's sort of how the fights go down in this movie. Hwang, however, does get to show off some of his kicking skills towards the end of the movie, thank God. The only snag is he has to keep making sure that his wig is staying on properly. That's Hwang Jang-Lee. When you look at him at the end of this movie, the amount of times this wig is slipping or falling or sort of has moved a little bit, it happens more times than you can count. Just has to keep making sure his wig doesn't come off, and believe me, you nearly see it fall off a few times. It nearly completely comes off. So YG finally wins, and that's it. Two plots that don't connect, right? Terrible wigs, a title with a style that you don't even see. A lead doesn't even thank people for saving his life, and like I said, the whole film just seems throw all that in there and just see what happens. I mean, this compared to Seven Grandmasters, it pales in comparison. Like Seven Grandmasters is a much more polished effort, like I think World of Drunken Master is as well. I think that's a much more polished film. But 36 Deadly Styles, unfortunately, just is a very... The film, it's enjoyable for the people in it, as I mentioned. It's very, but it's just very disjointed, especially when compared to, like I mentioned, Seven Grandmasters. I've got one more movie to go from this box set, and I've saved the most bizarre one until last, because, and that's the Old Master, which I will be reviewing next, because it's a bizarre movie, and it's, it's just, well... We'll have to save that for the next review. But if you have picked up this Joseph Kyo box set, let me know in the comments below what your favourite film is from it. You might even love 36 Deadly Styles, but I think the only thing you'll take from this film is the wigs, the disjointed plot, and things like that. But if you want to see Bolo and Hwang Jang-Lee in some very laughably silly wigs, then you've come to the right place. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.